Okay, aloha everybody. Thank you for coming today. We are recording this webinar, so if you can keep your mic muted, that'll be great. And we will have a link sent to you after this workshop. Okay, so aloha, welcome to the resume workshop. Today we're going to talk to you about your resume. But before we get into that, we will talk about career readiness and what that actually means. And who is here today? We would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Tomoko Skinner, the Student Career Specialist at Hawaiʻi Community College. And to my, is it right or left? Is it right? I guess Kim Martinson from Maui College. She is also the Student Career Specialist. And another Student Career Specialist at Kapiʻolani Community College is Monty Clark. And aloha, aloha Friday, and welcome to our workshop. Okay, so before we move on to the content, so there's another important announcement I would like to share is that we're going to have a virtual career fair on Handshake. So the college, we paid for this platform. You guys get to use it for free. So make sure, check your email. We sent you multiple emails from Handshake or either from the Career Center. So we're going to be hosting a virtual career fair on November 15th, 11 to 1 p.m. So everything is on Handshake. So you're going to go to the Handshake app and then register to this career fair. And you can meet with local employers. We have about over 30 employers from 3 islands. So some of the companies will have multiple locations. So we have Oahu Island, Hawaii Island, Maui Island employers participating. So whether this is your first or last semester, come to our virtual career fair network with the employers they're looking to hire. So I'm going to show you a little bit. If you can let me know if you can see the Handshake page. So you click on, so we sent you an email with the QR code. You can either click on the link, but you will register clicking on this register button. And here you can see all of these details. So it's on November 15 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's on Handshake. So you're gonna go to this page, and then before you do that, you have to schedule a session with the employers. So here we have you can search the employers by location. So right here we have the list of employers. And then you see these little boxes. These are the slots you can RSVP before the career fair. So you're going to take a look and read these instructions, descriptions, and click on these buttons and reserve a seat to meet with them. So the group sessions would be 30 minutes and one-on-one sessions would be 10 minutes. And here are our employers. Okay, we have about 30 employers, local employers participating in this virtual career fair. So check your email. We'll also put the link in the chat box at the end of our webinar. So this is the Handshake Virtual Career Fair. Please come to this career fair so you can start networking with the employers. Okay, so going back to the slide. So this is the link. If you wanted to scan this QR code, you can do that. And we'll be emailing you guys the flyer as well. Okay, moving on. What is career readiness? According to the National Associations of Colleges and Employers, that is called NACE, career readiness is a foundation to prepare the college educated for success in the workplace and lifelong career management. Okay, so why do I mention this? Okay, I mention this because NACE talks with employers from all over the country, asking them what traits they would like to see in their employees. Then they rank them and post the top 8. For 2024, these were the 8 career readiness competencies employers value the most and sought out when hiring. Okay, so these are the career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, and teamwork and technology. So going back to communication, what are different ways of communication? We have verbal, nonverbal, body language, and how much do you think we communicate nonverbally? So there has been a lot of studies, but most experts agree that 70 to 93% of all communication is nonverbal. That is body language, facial expression, posture, eye contact, gestures, and clothing and accessories. Okay, so this is the job market for the class of 2024. So if you look at this chart, that shows the top 5 attributes employers seek on candidates' resume. The number 1 is problem-solving skills. The second, ability to work in a team. And the third, strong work ethic. So these competencies are not necessarily taught in college. Instead, employers are looking for soft skills. So what are soft skills? Okay. So soft skills are the professional attributes that allow us to effectively relate to others. These skills enhance our personal interactions and lead to greater job performance and satisfaction. And hard skills are specific, teachable abilities that can be defined and measured, such as typing, writing and math, biology, and physics. Okay, so here are some examples of soft skills and hard skills. So on the left, you see hard skills. Those can be typing speed, foreign languages, data analysis, software programming, operating machinery, accounting, graphic design, certificates or diploma from an institution, first aid, those would be hard skills too. And on the right, we have soft skills. So those would be patience, work ethic, conflict resolution, teamwork, flexibility, empathy, communicating difficult concepts, negotiating, and managing stress. And there's many more. So over 1,000 students graduate every year with the same degrees and certificates, and you'll be receiving these same degrees. But what will set you apart from all of these other candidates is what you have to offer. And these are your soft skills. These are important because I want you to start to evaluate yourself. Are there some skills you might need to improve on? For example, are you a hard person to work with? Do you usually show up late and not think much about it? Do you have a hard time accepting feedback or direction? Or are you flexible and take criticism well? Do you work well within a team or are empathetic? It is really essential to take a look at yourself and look at these qualities. Some of you might be amazing at some, and you might need to work on some qualities. But knowing your strengths and weaknesses and articulating your strengths to an employer will go a long way in your job interview. Okay, so why are soft skills more important than hard skills? So number 1, hard skills are useless without soft skills. Number 2, soft skills are harder to learn. Number 3, the modern workplace is interpersonal. And number 4, customers demand soft skills. Number 5, future workplace will rely on soft skills. So with the world becoming more saturated with machines, computers, and the AI, people are seeking out that human connection, in some cases more than ever. A study done by Harvard University and the Carnegie Foundation, Stanford Research Center concluded that 85% of job success comes from having well-developed soft and people skills. And only 15 comes from technical skills and knowledge. And these are the hard skills. And these numbers are from a study conducted in 1918. So that means even after over 100 years, employers still want people who are strong with soft skills. Okay, so here's a very informative video from the CBS Mornings, tips for new college grads entering the job market.
Some 4 million students are graduating college this year, and many are entering a challenging job market. Government numbers show hiring slowed down more than expected in the U.S. last month, and the unemployment rate ticked up to 3.9%. There is some good news for grads. 32% of the U.S. jobs listed on LinkedIn are entry-level positions. LinkedIn career expert Catherine Fisher is here with tips for new grads and a few others. Anyone else looking for a job?
Yes, many.
Good morning. And I know quite a few of them. Some recent grads, some grads from 2023, some folks who want to change.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them, especially these Zennials and Millennials, who I sometimes think there's like the culture disconnect?
Yes. First thing is have an open mind. You know, the job market, as you mentioned, is going to be a little bit tough. So what you may have thought your career path was going to be right out the gate may change. So be really creative in terms of location, industry, and job type. You also want to really work on that network. Networking should be your full-time job until you get a job, but never give up on networking even when you get that job. So you may think, oh, I don't have a network. Well, you actually do. Your professors, your teachers, your coaches, etc. Tap into them. You also really want to think, about what all the firsts you're going to have. So this is going to be tough. You're going to have to write your first resume. You're going to have your first interview. You're going to have so many firsts. It's going to be challenging. Get used to it. The last thing, which is, I think, probably the most important, is to have a growth mindset. What we're finding is that, because you may get a job that you didn't think you'd be in, this is not your end-all be-all job. This is a stepping stone. But what we're seeing is that if you want to have that edge, you need to have AI skills. We hear it all the time. So Microsoft and LinkedIn just published a report on the state of AI. They found that 66% of hiring managers are looking for people with AI skills. But the really great news for entry level is that they were saying that more than 70% of hiring managers will hire someone who has AI skills, even if they're less qualified.
So you got to be technologically savvy. You mentioned location.
Yes.
Are there parts of the country that might be hiring a little bit more?
There are. So you may have thought, oh, I'm going to end up in New York or San Francisco, Bay Area.
Dream job.
Yeah, dream job. Yeah, maybe you're going to end up in Arizona. Tucson is hiring a lot, so we're seeing lots of entry-level jobs there.
Okay.
Raytheon, University of Arizona, Banner Health, those companies are hiring. We're also seeing Florida as being a hot spot. Gainesville and Tallahassee are big numbers there for entry level.
She said about 15, 30 seconds in her final question here. Are there particular jobs where there's a lot of demand for people?
There are. So investment banking analyst, medical assistant, and behavioral health specialist. So you may think, again, I don't have those skills. A lot of these companies will give you the training and your skills are probably transferable. So make sure that you're really playing up the skills that you have that they're looking for.
I just have to ask this. Are there any things that you advise folks not to do in an interview? I mean, what shouldn't they do?
Yeah, don't focus so much on what you don't have. Focus on the skills that you do have. So look at the job description. These are the skills that you're looking for. These are the skills that you have. And you may not think you have those skills, but you probably do. So be really creative in terms of that storytelling. Get your story down pat. Practice with friends. Think about how do you communicate that you're a great communicator.
Yeah.
And don't say you want to worry about work-life balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
a big no-no.
Watch the movie Step Brothers. Don't do what they do. Catherine Fisher, thank you so much.
Hey, well, yeah, that was a very informative video. But for Hawaii employers, they're looking to hire from local talent. So don't forget about the virtual career fair I showed in the beginning.
Some 4 million.
Okay, so to you, I'm gonna pass it off to Kim.
Okay. So that was some great advice. But before you can get that interview and before you can get that job, we have to start with your resume. So let's talk about your resume. Your resume is one of the most important parts of the job seeking process. And whether you're chosen for the interview or not depends a great deal on your professionalism demonstrated in your resume and the language you use to communicate your skills, abilities, and experience. In your resume, you put forth the strong impression that you are the best option for the company's employment needs. But before we start talking about resumes, I wanted to do a little exercise with you. I'm going to have all of you become hiring managers, and I would like you to look at 2 resumes. There's going to be applicant number 1 and then applicant number 2. And I'm going to give you just a minute here to review the 2 applicants. And I want you to decide in the chat who you would call in for that interview. Would it be number 1 or number 2? So again, I'm just going to give you a quick minute and you can just type in whenever you like who you would call. And then I'm also going to ask you why. So I see 2. Is there anything that stuck out on resume number or applicant number 2 that you liked or why you would call that person in as opposed to applicant number 1? What do you guys think? Any thoughts? Does anybody see anything different? It's clear to the point, organized, important skills. Okay, good. Very good. Okay. Did anybody notice anything similar? Did anybody pick up on that these applicant number 1 and applicant number 2 is the same person? Did anybody see that? Okay, let me go back. Let me ask you another question. What do you think the average attention span is for a human? You can type this in the chat. What do you think our attention span is? As humans, is it minutes? Is it hours? Is it seconds? What do you think? 5 seconds, okay. Anybody else? Couple seconds. Good, you guys are very close. As of right now, our human's attention span is 7, but I think it's closer to 6. And a goldfish attention span is 9. So goldfish has a longer attention span than we do. And sadly, humans is decreasing. In 2000, we had 12 seconds. In 2015, we were 8.25. In 2022, we are at 7 seconds. And now in 2024, I guarantee you we are below 7 seconds. But why do you think this is? Why do you think we're decreasing? Games, okay? Okay. Think about all of our distractions. How many of you are commercials? Okay. Yeah, TikTok, right? We are actually programmed to watch really, really short videos. And if they're over a period of time, you're going to scroll through. That's why things are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And I say this because, for example, I work in an office. And so I have my cell phone that I'm getting text message or phone calls. I have a work phone that I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting emails constantly coming through. I have students coming in. I have other faculty and staff coming in. So my mind is constantly being like scattered and I'm unfocused and I'm being pulled in multiple different directions. But I say this because a recruiter that's going to be looking at your resume is going to be looking at it for about 6 seconds before they decide if they're going to call you in for that interview or not. So you only have 6 seconds to wow them. And this is why having a solid resume is so important. And you want to make sure that it's free from typos, from misspellings, from grammar errors. I like to think of it kind of like this. Your resume is kind of like a first date. You go on a date and the person who's picking you up is late. They smell, they haven't showered, their clothes are stained or they're ripped. You decide to go out with them anyways, give them the benefit of the doubt, and you go out and they're rude. They don't tip, they talk over you. What's the chances you think you'll go out on a second date with them? Probably not, right? And that's because first impressions are that important and they hold that much weight. And your resume is your first impression to that potential employer. Okay, so today we're going to go over what a basic resume should look like. And employers are going to be looking for key things. And that's why having a basic resume is kind of, it's a good thing. They're looking for like your education, your school, if you graduated, they're looking for experience, they're looking for skills. They are checking off boxes that are the minimum qualification that they need in order to hire you, right? So they want to make sure that you check off these boxes that you're able to be hired. So they're looking for these key things. So we'll share a template with you. And I know it's a little bit small and we can share this. And I'm going to briefly go over the format. But before I do this, I wanted to mention, as they were talking about AI in the video, more and more companies, which really isn't surprising, they're using technology to increase productivity. And what I mean by this is they're investing in software that will actually screen resumes. And when they're screening these resumes, they're screening for specific words. And if you do not have these specific words on your resume, a lot of times your resume will get passed over. And I'm not sure if any of you have family or friends who might have applied to Hawaiian Airlines. It's a perfect example. I know a lot of people who've applied many, many times and they've never gotten a call. They never got called in for an interview, nothing. And same thing with Kaiser. Kaiser's another big one. A lot of people apply to Kaiser and they never hear anything back. I know for a fact, Hawaiian Airlines, a lot of times is customer service. And if you do not have that word customer service on your resume in some shape, way, or form, you're just going to go through. You're never going to get called because they're looking for very specific things. So I say this because I want you to pull whatever job you're applying to, pull that job posting, save it as a PDF, print it, whatever you need to do, but hold on to it and save it because you're going to kind of use that like a book report. You're going to have your job posting in front of you when you're creating your resume. And you're going to pull some of the verbiage that's on your resume and you're going to put that or in the job posting and you're going to put that into your resume. So, okay. Let's go to the next. So here I kind of made it so it's a little bit easier to see. And the first thing on your resume is very simple. It's just your name, right? Put down your name, your full name, however you want to put it, but make sure whatever name you put down is the same name that you put on your application, along if you have to submit a cover letter, that your name is consistent. And then right under your name is your mailing address, city, and state. Recently, actually, you could leave off your mailing address if you don't want to put that down. That's perfectly okay. That's something that's changed recently. You don't have to necessarily put that anymore. But I do recommend putting down your city and state and your zip code. Okay. And then you're going to put down your phone number and your email. Please, whatever email you put down, please make sure you check that but when putting it on the resume, this is another way for them to communicate with you. If they email you, you want to make sure that you're seeing that email come through. So make sure it's an email that you check. Okay. And then under your header, because this is considered your header, is all your contact information. The first thing is going to be your objective. Now you can do this one of two ways. One way is just stating the position, which is like the position. Sometimes it comes with a number. So it's the position title and the company. So it's kind of underlined in red. It says to obtain the position title at so-and-so company. And that's all you have to put. So that's option number one. Or another way is kind of doing like a snapshot sentence or a really short paragraph of why they should hire you. You can kind of think of that as like your elevator pitch. If you had like 2 minutes to, sell yourself, what would you say? And you can kind of put that down. So it's one or the other, whatever you would like to do. So that is your objective. Okay, so after objective is your summary of skills. Now, this is where you list what you would show the employer that you would be the best fit for the job you're applying for. And you're going to pull these from the job posting, right? So if the job posting says you have to lift 75 pounds, in your resume, you should state that you're able to easily move, lift, and carry 75 pounds, right? If it asks you to have customer service or you work with a team, something like that, you put that verbiage in your resume. So you could say you're a fast learner, eager to learn more. You're a team player with excellent communication skills. If they say they want it, you put it down. You never assume, or you never want to assume that they know the skills that you have, right? Even if it seems obvious. if they ask for it, it's important to put it in your resume, right? Think of it as like checking off those boxes. If they want you to lift 75 pounds, check it off, you put it in your resume. You can lift 75 pounds. Okay, so that's skills. And you should have maybe 3 bullets for skills, 3 to 4. And then that's good. That's enough. And then moving from your skills, you're going to go to related coursework. Now, this may or may not be relevant to the job you're applying to. If you're going to apply to be a preschool teacher and you're in early ed, then those classes are very relevant. If you're nursing and you're applying for, nursing assistant, those are very obvious choices. You want to make sure you put that down. Same with automotive. You want to be in automotive, you're taking automotive. You want to list those courses. If you're applying for an automotive technician position, you don't need to write down your history class, right? It's not going to be relevant to you getting that job. So if it's relevant to the job you're applying to, you put it in. If it's not relevant, you don't have to. And then if you do put it in, I recommend that you put down the full course name. So you write out the full thing. Never use abbreviations. So like, for example, it's like culinary, CULN 186, right? To anybody outside the college, that doesn't mean anything. They have no idea what that means. Pretty much anybody outside of culinary has no idea what that means. So always write out the full title of the course, and then you don't have to write the numbers because again, it doesn't mean anything to anybody outside of campus. And that's pretty much it for related coursework. And then we go down to education. For education, you're going to start with your college first. So that will go above your high school. And the first line is where you're going to write down your full degree. So you're going to say pursuing an associate's in arts degree in liberal arts, or if it's applied science, you put that down. But you put the full title of your course or your program. And then underneath is where you're going to put your college. So here on this example, it's Maui, but you don't just do UHMC, you spell it out. University of Hawaii Maui College, Kahului, Hawaii. Or, Kapiʻolani Community College, you put the city and the state. So you want to make sure you do that. Here, I don't know if you can really see it. I've crossed off the from to to dates. You don't have to put those down. I recommend just putting down your expected graduation. Again, this is like an educated guess. When do you think you're going to graduate? And then you put down the month and the year. They don't need to know when you started, especially if it takes you a few years longer to complete it because you're going part-time because you're working full-time, or you're going part-time because you're taking care of family. Whatever the case is, you don't have to put it down on paper. And then the same thing with high school. You just write down your high school name, the city and state, and then all you say is diploma received. You don't want to say the year you graduated because it's illegal for anybody to not hire you based on age, but you can't prove that if they don't say anything to you, right? So if they're looking at your resume and they're like, oh, well, you just graduated high school. You're too young. You don't know anything. I'm not going to hire you, right? Or if you graduated high school 30 years ago, they could be like, oh, well, you're too old. I don't want to hire you. So you don't want to give them any of that. So you just say diploma received, and that's all you have to say. Okay, and then moving on. So this is the work experience is kind of like the meat of your resume. And this will probably take you the longest to do. And I pulled here the work experience from those 2 resumes you just previously looked at, just to kind of show you the differences again on how much you can actually write in. So your work experience should be short, truthful accomplishments. And again, you want to pull verbiage from that job posting. If they're asking for specific things, you want to show that employer that you have experience doing that. And when it comes to the work experience, you're going to start with bullets because you're going to separate it, right? And then to start off the bullet, you're going to use what's called an action verb. And that's the provided or recorded, skilled, managed. It's kind of a fancy way of starting off your sentence, right? And on the next slide, it's kind of small, but these are, and you can just Google action verbs. But this is how you should start off your job or your work experience with an action verb. And honestly, you don't want to repeat the same word twice. You don't want to say like skilled, 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 skilled. It just gets really redundant for the person reading it. So there's plenty of words, just choose a different word. And then if you have different jobs that you did very similar things, like you were a server and then at like multiple restaurants, choose different things within each job. You want to list both jobs, but you don't want to be so redundant that you're listing the same experience for each. You want to pull different experiences from one job and pull them from another. So say if you were given the opportunity to manage or to train in one, you want to state that, right? If you opened any shift or closed any shift, you were given responsibility. That's something important to say, right? Were you able to deal with cash? Anything like that you want to put in your resume. Especially if it's specifically what you're going to, applying to. But you just don't want to repeat the same thing at each job. So you want to keep it a little bit different. Okay. And then as far as the action verbs too, you want to make sure that if you're currently working there, it's still current. So use present tense. So it's like managed. And then if you're no longer working there, remember you're using past tense. So it's managed or provided. So you're going to add that past tense. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Okay, so moving on from work experience, we have your volunteer, and this is community service or any clubs. So this is where you could be, if you were part of a club in college or in high school, you could put it down, especially if you had like a leadership role. That's important. You want to put that down. Volunteer. If you belong to a church, you assist with fundraising. This is all stuff you could put down. If you're a Boy Scout or you have an Eagle Scout, anything like that, you put down. And then awards and certificates. I know some of your degrees, you earn certificates. So this is where you'd put this down. And then you'd put down the date of when you received the certificate. Now, if you are trained in like CPR and first aid, you would put down the expiration date. So it's good for 2 years. And they want to know when it expires, right? When do they have to pay for you to be renewed? So you just put down the expiration date on that, and you would just do it just like that, expiration, and then you put the month and the year. And then if you received the certificate and it doesn't expire, you can write received, or you could just write the date. You don't have, it's however you like to do it. Okay, I know that's a lot of information. We have templates and everything for you as well. Okay. But I also want to emphasize that how important it is not to downplay any of your previous employment or experience. It's important that you realize that every job that you've had, even chores around the house, taught you something. How to be reliable, how to do a good job, how to be on time, take responsibility, and so much more. Please do not discount your experience just because you are not getting paid for it. A perfect example is internships. Your internship can be listed for work experience. You don't necessarily have to be getting paid, right? So I cannot stress this enough that every job can be transferable. You can take experience from your part-time job working as a barista and apply to becoming, say, a preschool teacher or a nursing assistant, right? A good example I had was with a previous student who was a barista, and she was applying to be early ed for a preschool teacher. And we were going over her resume, and I was asking her, because she didn't think that anything she did at her previous job was transferable to the job she was applying to. So when we were breaking it down, I was saying, you're probably skilled in working in a highly stressful, demanding work environment. She's like, yes. And then I asked her if she dealt with angry, erratic customers. She said, as you probably can guess, if you worked with customer service, the answer was yes. So when I was explaining it to her, I said, this is all customer service, and it's all preparing her to work with her future students. Or if she was going, if you're going to nursing, it could be helping you work with your future patients. Or if you're going into automotive, it can help you work with your future customers. So remember, it's all customer service, and you're making sure that the customer or the patient or the student or client's needs are being taken care of. And you're just using different tools to do the job, right? So please do not ever discredit your previous experience. It shows a lot to the next employer. It goes a long, long way. Okay, some resume tips really quick. Always proofread your resume, and please have at least two other people proofread your resume. We all understand autocorrect. It's on your computer, spell check, and it could take a word that you think you're writing and it could make it into another word. And because you've read this resume over 100 times in your head, you are reading one word and it's actually another word that's written down. So please have at least two other people look it over. Please make sure that layout is clean. And then you also want to customize your resume for the job you're applying to, right? Remember that job posting. Refer to that job posting. Make sure you read and understand the job requirements. And please have clearly labeled section headings and good spacing, right? So it's nice on the eyes, and that makes it easy for the people who are reviewing it to look for exactly what they're looking for. All right, on to you, Monty.
All right, thank you. We're going to take a look at some mistakes. Some of the things that Kim and Tomoko brought up, we're going to see what actually happens on resumes. So first mistake, typos. Okay, a typo will kill you. Again, they're only looking at these things, and for someone who looks at resumes 24/7, they're going to spot a typo right away. Now, this example is absolutely crazy, and if you try to read it, you might be able to. I actually could. And this is so mixed up that you probably wouldn't do this. The tricky typos are the ones where the I's before the E or vice versa, or just little screw ups that don't stand out. And like Kim said, you're reading the resume a million times and you just miss it. So you got to have other people take a look at it. Typos will kill you. Nobody wants to see that. Okay. Second big mistake is social media. Now, you may be like, well, it's none of their business. Fine. It doesn't matter. They're looking. Nearly 75% of hiring managers responding to a recent survey said that they check applicants' social media presence. Okay. The majority said they aim to actually obtain the answers that they cannot legally ask you. How about that? So when they asked if they thought that was legitimate or okay, there was a whole mixed opinions on it. But the fact is they're doing it. So you're never going to know if you didn't get the job because your social media just shows you partying hardy all the time or doing something else perhaps inappropriate. They're never going to say, oh yeah, we saw it on social media. They're just not going to give you the job. Bottom line is, if you don't want your mother to see it, don't have it out there. Clean up your social media presence when you're looking for a job. Think about it. If you want to get something, a professional position, or you want to work in the government, or you want to work at a university, you got to clean up your act. Okay. Next one kind of goes with the social media. Got to have a decent email. Okay. Your email address should basically be your name. Okay. First name dot last name dot first name. And if you have to put some numbers in it or something, at Gmail. Okay. Simple and to the point. You don't want, what is it? Sexy Rexy, Sugar Mama 69. I literally had someone, one of my students, give me a resume that back in the day when they had Hotmail, and it was Hot Kitty 69 at Hotmail. I mean, just no, you're not going to get a job with that kind of thing. Okay. Again, think professional, clean it up. And then when you get that new email at Gmail, like Kim was saying, actually check it. You need to check it. That's how they're going to communicate with you. Okay. I'm going to say the word professional a dozen more times before we're done here with these mistakes, but just get a professional email. All right. Number 4, no photos. Do not put a picture in. 1, it's unnecessary. 2, it creates and or could trigger biases in the viewer, even unintentional. I mean, people with the best intentions subconsciously can take a look, and you might just remind them of someone that they don't like. It could be age discrimination, too young or too old. Any number of things, okay, that it's just unnecessary. And to be honest, it's really not professional. Okay. It's not what you're doing when you're looking for the job. All right. And the other thing is graphics. You don't need to cover your resume with a bunch of little hearts or swirly lines or something like that. You don't want to distract from the information that you're trying to portray, which is that you're the best candidate for the position. They're going to look at the resume again for a number of seconds, and they're looking for keywords that represent the job that they're looking for you to do. Okay. So you need to make it super easy for them to see that. Any kind of distractions, either graphically or image wise, it's just going to take away from that. All right. if this is your first job, next one, Tomoko, if this is your kind of first job, first career move that you're making, you're probably going to have a one-page resume. If you have done a ton of experience, like you've been volunteering all over the place and doing internships and who knows what else, you might go on to the second page. If you do, get halfway through the second page. Don't just leave a couple of lines hanging on the second page. You can tighten that up and bring it into the first page, okay? Get rid of anything that's irrelevant. Again, we're focusing on professional, relevant information specific to the job that you're applying for. Okay, so one resume does not fit all. Each resume is custom fit to the job that you're applying for. Okay, so again, we've said it a dozen times, but someone's going to look at this resume for a matter of seconds. They're not going to look at multiple pages. Okay, they're going to look at that first page and they're going to hopefully see what they're looking for, put you in the pile that says, we'll follow up with them. Okay, that's how we're doing it. Number 6, lying. All right, I'm just going to tell you, don't do it. Okay, for a number of reasons. First of all, it's inappropriate. You're going to get caught. And if you make something up and you get the job and you can't do what you said you could, you're going to look ridiculous. The other thing, the more important one, is that every industry, every group of organizations, every industry is super tight. It's actually really small, right? All the top dogs at the companies that do the same thing know each other. And all the people in the various positions at these companies know each other as well. Everybody's keeping tabs on each other. Who's doing better? Who got promoted? Everybody knows what's going on. Once you're in, you're going to see that. You don't want to be the person that got tagged as making stuff up. Lying is, besides being wrong, it's going to be really hard to overcome in your career. Just don't do it. Okay. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not going to help you at all. So don't make stuff up. Number 7, as we keep saying, keep the resume professional. And as I think Kim or Tomoko mentioned, something standard is what they're looking for. Besides Ham Dugo here, who also has a picture, he's got graphics, little coins getting more and more. He's got his little client meets Dugo means money. The reflection of his name, all this stuff is ridiculous. The little chart at the bottom, it's like these little graphic charts of how good he is at various things. This is all taking away from the fact someone would take 2 seconds to look at this and throw it in the no good pile. Okay. Again, we're not looking for any of this stuff. We're looking for a good, clean, professional resume that has the verbiage, the words that they're looking for to hire you. You got to make it easy for them to see those words, and they got to stand out. So that leads us to mistake number 8. As we say in the graphic design industry, there's a phrase that friends don't let friends use Comic Sans or cartoon fonts. Okay, just don't do it. Some basic good fonts to use are Arial or Calibri, which is the default font these days in Microsoft Office. Excuse me. Times New Roman used to be used quite a bit. It's a little old school, but it's a good font. So long as you're at the right size, your font size should be at least 11 or 12. Okay. Keep it around 11 or 12. 12 is a good size. If it's too small, right, and you just have ants on the page, no one's going to read it. They can't see what they're looking for, so they're going to toss it. Okay. It's got to be readable, and lay things out with a little bit of space. Don't just cram everything into a single, block. Break things up a little, make it appealing to look at. And again, use a professional font. All right. That's important. Number 9, I think Kim mentioned this, but we're going to bring it up again, is names. It's got to be consistent against everything in all of the different aspects that you give it to them. Cover letter, resume, whatever you applied online. If you give other information, portfolio or something, the name has to be consistent. Now, here in Hawaii, some people have some very long names. That's fine. Just so long as if you're going to use that full name, use it consistently. If you're going to use a abbreviation of it, ask your kumu, ask your parent, whoever who can give you that abbreviation that's appropriate for you. Use that consistently. Okay. The point is, in some large organizations in HR, your resume may go to somebody and your cover letter to somebody else, or portfolio can go somewhere to somebody else. If it's got different names on it, they're not necessarily going to make the connection. Okay. So be consistent with your naming. Doesn't matter how long it is or short, just be consistent. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Okay. This is my favorite. We have actual resume mistakes. When I talked earlier about typos, this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. A lot of these typos are words. They're not going to come out in a spell check. Okay. And if you've been reading the resume over and over and over again, you're not going to see them either. Okay. Right in the top, the subjective for the first one, he's seeking a part-time position. Okay. I'm assuming he wanted a part-time position, but he's actually looking for a part-time position with room for advancement. Party's not going to show up in a typo because it's in a spell check, because it's party's a word, perfectly legit. Someone planned a new corporate facility that went $3 million over budget. I have no idea why they would put that in there. Perhaps they were overseeing a $3 million budget, which, trying to let the employer know they can handle big numbers. But what came out was $3 million over budget. This person, the next one, is a rabid typist as opposed to rapid. You want to let them know that you can type fast, not that they need to get rabies shots before they hire you. If you are looking for a job in a kitchen, you want to mention that you cook food, not people. So enjoying cooking Chinese or Italian is probably not the best way to get a job in a restaurant. Another simple typo that will never show up on a spell check because these numbers are legitimate. You went to college for 104 years. A little long. Perhaps 4 years was what they were going for, but they listed that it took them 104 years to get through college. These are funny. I mean, I'd be laughing, but into the no good pile. You know what I mean? I'm going to be looking at these resumes cracking up. I can't wait to tell my wife at dinner about this, but I'm not going to call them. So these are the kinds of things that the typos that you're not going to see unless you have somebody else read your resume for you. And then at the bottom, when we get to some of the lower ones, we're getting into the inappropriate or unnecessary stuff. Okay. Again, what do we keep saying is your resume cover letter has to be professional, has to look professional, but most importantly, the information has to be relevant to the job that you're applying for. So married with 8 children, prefers frequent travel, is screaming, get me out of the house. Exposure to German for 2 years, but many of the words are inappropriate for business. Why would you? What? That is completely, it's totally unnecessary. Nominated for prom queen. It's fantastic. And that has what to do with customer service? I don't know. Keep the information relevant. That's the key part. Okay. Finished 8th in a class of 10. Now, if they had written numbers like 8th in a class of 10, I would assume the 10 was supposed to be 100. They finished 8th out of a class of 100 or 1,000, but they wrote it out. So I have no idea what's going on here. But again, unnecessary information. Keep it relevant. Now, I want to show you a quick video on how to really make your resume pop. They're going to give you some great ideas, and I want to talk a little bit about it afterwards because there's something they bring up that I don't think is quite appropriate. So let's see the resume. Let's see the video.
Resumes are really the introduction to you as an employer. That's really kind of that peek into who you are. So in order for someone to be excited to speak to you, to want to bring you in for an interview, to want to learn more, that resume really has to stand out.
One way to make your resume pop is to really focus in on the skill sets and the things that are important for that individual to see. Think about what's listed in that job description, and you want to make sure that you're relating that. So what you do in your organization's leadership capabilities and things that can correlate. So if you've had a job before working like at a grocery store, what specifically from that role and that experience could be relatable to this role that you're looking to go into?
For length, I'd say to keep it to 1 page, standard type, standard font size, a solid format, and to make sure that you're highlighting what you've done.
You want to ensure that your resume has those action verbs, talking about what you have accomplished. So many employers will use AI to help, to kind of look at resumes before it even gets on somebody's desk. So I encourage, as you are applying to jobs, really read the job description and identify what's important with that role and make sure that your resume matches that and has keywords.
And if there are any numbers or data that you can associate with that point, include that. So if you were successful in converting X number of clients, if you processed this much data, or if you completed these many actions relative to the job, it's important to complete because in that short time that we're scanning, those numbers tend to stand out to us.
I always encourage students to put in a little bit about themselves, to differentiate themselves. What are your hobbies? Are you a member of this club or this organization? Maybe you were the treasurer and there was actually budget that you managed. Sometimes I think students might kind of wonder, like, is this relevant? And I'll give you a real world example. I was interviewing an individual who's now with our organization, and we were just talking. He was telling me, hey, I really like the Japanese culture, and I went to Japan for a year, and when I came back, I started the Japan Culture Club on campus, and, you know, I was the president, and I said, this isn't on your resume. And he said, well, I just didn't know if it was relevant for what I wanted to do. I had him put it back on his resume because it showed passion and it showed a deep interest. It showed that he had initiative to start a club and recruit people and maintain this club the whole time he was in school.
Include every piece of employment information, because our job as recruiters is to really find those little nuggets in what you've done before and see those transferable skills and experiences into maybe those bigger picture roles. So don't leave anything off of your resume that you have done.
Sometimes they don't put their graduation date. And so that's really important for us to make sure that you can be a part of the program. And another thing is their phone number. A lot of times they have left that off. And so we definitely need that in order to get in touch with you.
Do not send it with only your eyes on it. Have a friend proofread it for you. Take it to Career Services. And if you have a network of alumni, for example, if you go to XYZ University and you know alumni work at XYZ place, reach out to them.
It's going to have you stand out. It's really going to give that recruiter, it's going to give that company the best view of who you are. That is your first impression. The more excitement you can create from that resume, it's just going to put you on that next level in the recruitment process.
Okay, so before I hand it off to Kim, I just want to bring up the fact that she talked about hobbies. And then she went on to explain that this gentleman was fascinated by the Japanese culture, went to Japan for a year, I'm assuming learned the language. I don't call that a hobby. If you know a second language, by all means, put it on your resume. If you started a club having to do with a culture of any kind, or the fact that you started a club and maintained it, that's good information. That's not necessarily a hobby. I look at a hobby as fishing. Okay, that's not relevant. Okay, so most of the time, I think your hobbies are not going to be relevant and not necessarily something you want to put in there. Unless you know for a fact that the person you're contacting, the CEO of the company, is a huge surfer, or you're trying to get a job at a surf shop or O'Neill's or, you know, Billabong or any of these, you know, surf companies, of course you're going to put that you surf. Okay. But all I'm saying is make sure it's relevant. Okay. Make sure your information is relevant. I think these things got brought up, but you don't want to add poor academic achievements. You don't want to talk about salary expectations. That's not the time to do that. Keep I out of your resume. You don't have to say I did this, I did that. Just list what you did with the action verbs that Kim was talking about. Okay, and speaking of that, I'm going to hand it off to Kim. Thank you very much.
Okay. We have a little true and false. So you can just write in the chat what you think the answer is. Okay, first question. A good resume paints a clear picture of you, including your height, weight, race, age, and gender. True or false? Okay, yes, correct. It is false. Do not do that. Any of that down. Okay, number 2, employers are looking for specific soft skills in their employees. Remember the soft skills. All right, true, yes. True, true. Great, perfect. Thank you. Yes, this is true. Remember the soft skills Tomoko was talking about. Okay, number 3, to help your resume stand out, you should make it as unusual as possible by using brightly colored paper, your picture, and spraying it with perfume. False, false.
Classic.
And all of this,
and
this is all from experience. This is stuff that's come through our desks. Perfume. Don't do that. Okay, last one. 1 or 2 typos or misspellings on a resume won't hurt your chances of getting the job if you are well qualified. What do you think? True or false? Yes, false. It will greatly hurt your chances of getting called for that interview. Thank you. Okay.